Thank you very much for coming. Today I'm going to talk to you about what I do for a living, which is pretty cool in my opinion, but let's see what you think. A very quick, who am I about me? My name is Ahmed Sobeh. It's going to be very difficult to pronounce that, but that's okay. I'm engineering manager at Ivan's open source program office. I'm also on the advisory board for the Joomla Foundation, and below you can find some links for my socials. Cool, so how many people know what an OSPO is, what an open source program office is? That's cool. I guess they're everywhere now, right? Almost every second company have their own OSPO. They come in many shapes and forms. I am on the to-do group, which is an open community for companies and people who run OSPOs to exchange ideas and ways and best practices how to run OSPOs, basically. And what I see every time I meet with folks from the to-do group, that each company customizes or fits their OSPO to their needs and what they need. Some companies have a legal focus on licenses and stuff like this. Others have upstream contribution focus. It depends on what the company or the organization needs. And this happened as companies and organizations realized the strategic importance of open source, basically, and how important it is for the growth and development of their own organizations. But I'm going to take a very quick look at what's an average OSPO and what it looks like. Today we're going to take a look at our own OSPO at Ivan and at the average OSPO, basically. So the average OSPO is, as I just said, it's a cross-functional team embedded in your organization. Organizations and companies realized that they need a team of experts on open source matters to handle all their open source related topics. The team becomes the center of competency for the organization's open source operations and structure. It oversees open source software management and strategy, and it also oversees library selection, license compliance, workflows, and stuff like this. This is what an average OSPO looks like, and this kind of OSPO would fulfill the average need of a company that works with open source projects. But how does our OSPO look like? So the company basically offers databases as a service, so we build services on top of open source databases. So the existence of these open source projects is quite crucial to the existence of the company. That's very closely tied. So our OSPO is very focused on upstream contribution. We have a team of OSPO developers. They all contribute to projects upstream. So basically their day-to-day work is 100% open source, 100% focused on contributing upstream, and with that comes a very different set of challenges. Working with a team of developers that work on projects that the company doesn't own, the company that doesn't moderate, it has its own set of challenges. Quick look at our OSPO and how it looks like. We have 17 people working on upstream projects, which I guess one of the biggest OSPOs that I've seen around. We have 7 maintainers of our dependencies and 2 maintainers of other dependencies. So the projects that we work on, the projects that we build services on, we have 7 maintainers hired within the company to work on those projects, 100% upstream, nothing internal. And these are the projects that we focus on: OpenSearch, ClickHouse, Kafka, Flink, Postgres, and Cassandra. So with this type of OSPO, a market is created for open source maintainers, which is something that has been missing for a very long time. Creating a market to encourage people to become maintainers of open source projects and work on them on a daily basis, which is a huge problem that maintainers face. That they work on and maintain open source projects for free, and once the opportunity of a paid job that has much better, has any kind of pay really, they just drop working on open source projects because of the lack of time and the lack of ability to contribute. So with this kind of setup, we try to help the community by creating a market for maintainers to earn money by working on open source projects. And of course, this helps the business ensure that they have people working on the projects that the business depends on, keeping the projects healthy, basically. So what are the characteristics of an OSPO team, or what kind of baggage comes with having an OSPO team, and what are the challenges that come with that? But I'm going to look first about the characteristics of an OSPO team. This looks like a database, but it's not. But the team is, first of all, distributed. And I guess this is an issue that came with COVID, basically. All teams are now remote, which has lots of pros, but also has some cons. But in the case of OSPO, there are a few stuff that are kind of mandatory when it comes to having a distributed team, because you want to hire talents from all over the world, people working on different open source projects. They come from different areas. They have different cultures and backgrounds. It's always a challenge with working with people from different areas, and I've seen that across several teams. work in different time zones, obviously, because you never know what kind of project you want to hire for, and you can be surprised by where the person lives, basically. And the different time zones, and they have different work routines. I guess this bucket of issues, or bucket of characteristics, they come with any kind of remote team, not just OSPO teams, but it's very specific to OSPO teams. The second aspect is the team is extrospective, which is the main essence of an OSPO team, basically. The team works on projects and works on, contributions that are not owned by the company, basically. Projects that are either shared with the community, the company administrates these projects but shares them with the community. Projects that are administrated by foundations, you have people contributing to projects administrated by the Apache Foundation, for example, or the Linux Foundation. And their main essence of work is community engagement. The team, on a daily basis, talks to and works with people from outside the company, which makes it challenging in other aspects when I'll talk about a little bit further. But, for example, try to think of how you want to review the performance of a person on the team. They interact with people outside of the company, there is no kind of peer review they can conduct, basically. You have to come up with other ways to assess how well the individual has done over the past few months. Third is team separation. I guess this problem, it varies depending on how big your OSPO is, but we see it firsthand because of the big size of the OSPO that we have. The team works on different projects. You might have even one person working on one project alone, and that creates a problem when it comes to building a team culture and having this team feeling. Individuals working alone, as I just said, and they work also on different stacks. So, working with OSPOs, you always try to group the team together and find common points, but you might end up having people working on 5, 6 different stacks, and it becomes very difficult to form that team feeling. And last but not least, and I guess one of the biggest struggles we have is org separation. The team is separated from the rest of the organization. They do not have any kind of relation to the OKRs of the company, basically, because they do not work on the internal projects of the company. Whenever the team goes to any of the QBRs or any of the internal company ceremonies, they do not see themselves on them because their purpose is not related to the internal goals of the company. They have independent goals. Their goals are to keep the projects that the company depend on healthy, with diverse contributions, diverse maintainers. So they have very different goals from the rest of the company. They have independent timelines because with open source projects, timelines are extremely different. Internal teams might work in 1, 2, 3, 4 week sprints. You might open a PR in open source project and not hear back for a year. So they're very different timelines. And the team has different structure and different report lines. It's impossible to form an OSPO team in the same way product team are formed. You can have a scrum master and a product owner. It's very different. So you can't have the same structure, which emphasizes the org separation feeling that the team usually feels. So with all these features or characteristics comes a set of struggle areas, and they're all in basically 4 main pillars that we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about how to try and fix them and work with them. So these are the 4 pillars I just mentioned. We usually face issues with building a team culture, setting goals and planning for the future of the team, measuring performance and assessing the performance or how well the team is doing, and last but not least, career growth and, trying to help engineers on the team further their career by working on open source projects. Starting with the first one, culture, which is one of the main, I would say, duties of any manager or team lead to foster a team culture, foster a culture of collaboration. And you'd see different teams across the company. Each of them, they have their own essence, they have their own way of working. This becomes very difficult when you're working in an OSPO team. These are few, I wouldn't say best practices, but ways that we manage to create a team culture, although we're placed in very different parts of the world, different time zones, and work on different projects. First would be trying to create sub-teams or chapters or smaller teams. We have in our team, for each project, 2 to 3 people working on the project. So we try to group smaller teams so they would have team ceremonies on a smaller scale, basically. And we group the teams either by the project, people contributing to the same project, people working on the same stack. Rust people would get together and have their own ceremonies. Java people do the same, and so on. And domain-based, because sometimes we don't even have anything in common between the projects we're working on. So, resulting to dividing people by domain sometimes also helps. Knowledge sharing across chapters or sub-teams. We have regular seminars in the team where we get together to share knowledge about different projects. People working on Flink share some knowledge about what they did the past month or a few months. Same for people on Kafka and so on. So this helps a lot also in trying to build this team culture. This is the fun part, midday team social slot, because we have people working in the Americas and people working in Europe. So we try to get together midday, like 4 p.m. EU time, to get together and talk about, it's not a stand-up in any shape or form. We just talk about fun stuff, basically, what we did today, what we'll do tomorrow outside of work. And of course, we try to have regional team meetups as much as possible. People living within, well, close distances from each other. We try to get smaller teams to meet together. That also helps a lot. Second, we go to goals and planning, which is very, very challenging given how the team is set up. We try to put roadmaps for 6 months for the team. It's very difficult, as I said, to plan with the rest of the company. So when the rest of the company is taking the week to plan for the next quarter, we do not really participate in the quarterly planning, but we participate in the 6 months road mapping. Every 6 months we get together, try to plan for what we want to achieve in the next 6 months, what kind of features we want to work on. Of course, this doesn't just depend on us because there's lots of play here. We take into consideration the community needs, what kind of features the community already plans on doing and the community has been asking for. We leave space for urgent bugs and vulnerabilities that arise because this is, well, your OSPO is your first line of defense against any vulnerabilities. And strategic priorities for the company, of course. What kind of features we talk with product, and I'm going to mention that in a bit, to see what they actually care about. We have weekly syncs with the product team, just to make sure we're always on the same page. What do they actually need in the coming period? How can we help? What kind of features they need to push along? And with this, they know from us, or they get to know from us what the community actually cares about, so they can also shape their own planning according to that. And this is the most difficult point, ensure aligning community goals with organizational goals, which sometimes gets very challenging because stuff that bring business value are not the same stuff that the community cares about, but we try to, which it's not always 100% doable, we try to work on both as much as we can. In lots of cases, we have to prioritize community needs because that's what would, well, build our own rapport so we can eventually work on what the business cares about. Now we go to performance. One of the trickier points, because it's very difficult, as I said at the beginning, to assess how well an individual has done when you don't actually know the people they work with. It's very difficult to say this person has done well without being able to talk to their peers and see their actual impact. But as difficult as it is in this aspect, it's also a bit easier because you see their contributions all on the open. You can just go to GitHub. With one query, you'd know what the person has done, but that would be also just the code part, which is not the only way we measure performance. We measure contributions, and we do not label contributions as code contributions. Contributions are pull requests, obviously. PR reviews, how many PR reviews the person has done, because that also helps push along other stuff that the community works on and actually cares about. So if you end up in the quarter with 50 PR reviews and like 5 PRs, you still did a good job because you moved along other stuff. And community support, answering questions on forums, writing blog posts that help people understand a specific point of the project. All these kind of aspects are accounted for and are used to measure as metrics, basically, to measure the performance of an individual. Community impact. This is the part that we care about for the community. We care about making the maintainer base much more diverse, make it bigger, onboard people from different companies, onboard people from different backgrounds. So how many contributors did the person help onboard onto the project? How many maintainers, if the person is in a PM, let's say, I'm gonna talk in Apache terms, is a PMC position or is in a committer position, how many maintainers did they help bring on? And the project health in general. There are some projects where with very poor open source health, where the project is dominated by one company. We don't have an in into the project. If we help improve the health of the project, that's also part of how we measure our own performance as a team. And last comes internal support. As we have a team of experts on projects that we build our services on, we always like to assess how the individual has helped internally, basically. Whenever anyone in the company had any issue with the project you're working on, did the person chip in with their knowledge or not? Did they help and support the team, as I just said, with vulnerabilities as were the first line of defense for the company? And last but not least, community media presence, because it's part of an open source portfolio for any individual, basically. Giving technical talks and writing blog posts, this all comes as part of the portfolio. This part I try to be very lenient with because people have different personalities. Some people are not comfortable with public speaking, others are very comfortable writing blog posts and technical blogs. So it just depends on the individual. There is no one metric for this, but building media presence in general is the metric, basically. Next, we go to career growth, which is quite challenging because when you have an internal structure in the company, from the get-go, you can just tell the person, you need to do this to get to the next level. You need to do this to get promoted. After this level, you have this level. If you do this, you fulfill what the level needs, and you can go to the next one. This gets much trickier in OSPO because you do not own the project. So you do not know beforehand which way the projects are going to go. So starting with goal setting goals for the individual for the next 3 or 6 months, depending on the cycle, depending on the kind of organization that you have. The goals have to align with the individual's personal goals, which areas they want to work on and the project they're assigned to, the project they're contributing to. Aligning with the community goals, as I just said, the last 2 metrics are the same ones we've been mentioning all along. Aligning with community goals and aligning with organizational goals. Next is project awards, and this is pretty different from one project to the next, basically, because in some projects it's almost impossible to become a maintainer or to become recognized for any kind of work because the project works in a very specific way, and any kind of contributions, though might be welcome, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be have a voice at the table, basically. It becomes very difficult at that point. But we can use this as a goal setting or as a measurement of how well the person has been performing. An individual contributor to Kafka might set their eyes on becoming a Kafka maintainer, so we put down a plan. We try to work to actually reach that point. And building the media presence, and this comes in many sorts of ways. With the media presence, either talks or blog posts. We have a content team that helps people on our team either build their speaking skills if they want to be public speakers, or help them craft their technical blog writing skills, basically, if they want to write technical blogs. We have full support on both areas. As I said, it becomes part of the open source developers portfolio. So it makes sense to have it as part of the person's growth track, basically. That was all I had. These are not all the problems that we usually face. There's much more that we actually face, but these are the most pressing issues that we face on a daily basis, basically, and we struggle with almost every day. The QR code can take you to the actual slides, so you can download them. And thank you very much.